Hello and welcome to Aberone's Armorial. Today, in America, it is Memorial Day, and I thought it would be appropriate to do a video on the history of the arms of the United States, how we got to the current design, and some of its iterations over time and its proposed variants. So, of course, this is the arms of the United States as a full achievement. It throws a lot of people off often as it doesn't include things like a helm and mantling. It only uses one supporter. The crest is just shown floating by itself without the use of a torse. And generally just kind of confuses people. But this is, in fact, the arms of the United States as approved by Congress. However, it took a while to get here. Now, contrary to popular belief, there were a lot of American armatures at the time of the Revolution and throughout the early history of the United States. Most of the founding fathers and such were. And as such, some of them were studied in the practices of heraldry, albeit the 18th century heraldry, which we as a heraldry community don't like to talk about because it was a lot of landscapes and it just overall wasn't great. However, on July 4th, after the Declaration of Independence had been signed and read, it was resolved that Dr. Franklin, Benjamin Franklin, John Adams, and Thomas Jefferson, who had just finished polishing off the Declaration of Independence, also be in charge of creating some sort of device or seal or coat of arms for the United States. So those three sat down and put a committee together. As you can imagine, those three who didn't always work, they either worked great together or didn't work together at all, came up with an interesting thing. However, I'm going to talk about the committee for a moment. Mainly just their arms. I actually was able to find representations of all three of their arms. So these are the arms of the committee. From left to right, the arms of Benjamin Franklin, the arms of John Adams, and the arms of Thomas Jefferson. Interestingly enough, Adams and Jefferson, who would both later on become U.S. presidents, are not unique in having arms. And it wasn't just the presidents that were around this time. There have been presidents who have used arms in the 18th, 19th, and 20th centuries from various authorities granted all around the world or in Britain or used in the U.S. So these are the arms of those three. Those arms would also be used by John Quincy Adams, John Adams' son, during his presidency as well. However, the three of them came up with this original proposed design. This was submitted on August 10th, so only took about a month to come up with it, which overall wasn't a terrible time frame. However, you can tell they were in a rush. Now, it might look like quite the monstrosity, but overall, the theme can be conveyed. Now I'm going to read the blazon to you all. And this account from all of these comes from Eugene Zyber's Heraldry in America, a guide with 1,000 illustrations, which is an older book, albeit a very great, useful one when it comes to early American heraldry. So, from his book, he says, the committee reported on August 10th as follows. The Great Seal should on one side have the arms of the United States of America, which arms should be as follows. The shield has 6 quarters, parts 1, coup 2. The first, or, a rose enameled gules and argent for England. The second, a thistle proper for Scotland. The third, vert a harp or for Ireland. The fourth, azure, a flower de lis, which in this is pronounced flower de luce because the 18th century was a thing, or for France. The fifth, or the eagle sable, the imperial eagle sable for Germany, and in the sixth, or the Belgic lion gules for Holland, pointing out the countries from which these states had been peopled. The shield within a border gules entwined of 13 escutcheons, spelled with an S for some reason, argent linked together by a chain or, each charged with the initial letters sable as follows, starting with New Hampshire, Rhode Island, Connecticut, New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania. DC is... I don't know what DC is supposed to be actually on this one. DC, Maryland, V is Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, Massachusetts Bay. So, a representative of the 13 colonies. And then we have two figures shown here as well for the supporters. Dexter being the goddess of liberty, and then Sinister, the goddess of justice. Now, above all, we can see two things here in the whole achievement that did later make it into the final design. The motto being E pluribus unum, out of many one, and then the all-seeing eye and a triangle with some rays on it. Now, that didn't make it into the arms, however, it made it into the obverse of the seal, which everybody knows is the pyramid with the all-seeing eye. If you don't know, grab a $1 bill and look. The obverse of this seal, however, had a very interesting background to it, and it actually showed a rather artistic depiction of Pharaoh and his forces being engulfed by the Red Sea, Moses standing triumphantly over them, with the motto around saying, "Rebellion to tyrants is obedience to God," because American Revolution was a thing. So that was the first design. And then it was tabled for a few years because they didn't like the original design. No illustration was provided according to any account that I can find. And the committee the Congress kind of look at that blazon and said, screw it. This is obviously not the choice. In my personal opinion, I'm pretty sure this is one of those times where those three, being Franklin, Adams, and Jefferson, did not get along well together. The report was laid on the table. Nothing was done until 1779. And then a new committee started. This would have been done by Lovell, Scott, and Houston. Lovell of Massachusetts, Scott of Virginia, and William Houston of Georgia. Now, these three, their background was mainly in education, foreign affairs, and some other things. So they started a design in 1779, and by 1780 in May, they had this to provide. And this was the description provided to the Congress. On one side, the arms of the United States as follows. The shield charged on the field with 13 diagonal stripes, alternate red and white. Supporters, Dexter, a warrior holding a sword. Sinister, a figure representing peace, bearing an olive branch. The crest, a radiant constellation of 13 stars. On the reverse, the figure of liberty sitting in a chair holding a staff and fire-green cap. Now, this is interesting because this gives us another item. This is the first introduction of the stripes that would later make it into the final evolution of the arms. We see the olive branch, albeit in a very small light, and the constellation of 13 stars, which is still the crest of the United States. Of course, this design wasn't really accepted and ended up getting thrown out. Then you also see the inspiration coming from the national flag. Now, a lot of people would assume that the seal and thus the arms predate the American flag, and actually it was the other way around. They took elements from the flag and tried to make arms. So from here on out is where you start seeing that, because the flag had not been adopted at the time of the original committee being put together, because the flag was not approved until 1777. So, after a new committee, yet another committee was put together in the same year. This one was Middleton of Rutledge of South Carolina, and Rutledge of South Carolina, and Boudinot of New Jersey. They created this design. Other men joined in, such as Charles Thompson and the name of Arthur Lee, as well as William Barton, who would go on to design the final arm. So this is what it was. They submitted the device for an armorial achievement for the Great Seal of the United States of America. Now, this is both referring to a seal and a whole achievement, not just a shield, because this one is actually blazoned fully out. Arms, berry of 13 pieces, argent, and gules. On a canton azure, as many stars. Oh, sorry, this was the wrong blazon. I apologize. Sorry, I'm reading out of the book. But the important thing here is you have pale-wise 13 stars. You have a border of azure with the stars again. And then you have this column, which is supposed to be a brazier showing a phoenix rising. The other interesting thing here is, unlike the others, this one actually shows a helmet which is identical to that of the sovereign's helmet. Why that was the choice, I have no idea. So here is the actual blazon. Argent and gules, on a pale or a pillar of the Doric order vert, reaching from the base of the escutcheon to the honor point, and from the summit thereof a phoenix in flames with wings expanded proper, the whole within a border azure, charged with as many stars as pieces barrowise of the first crest, on a helmet of burnished gold, damask graded with 6 bars, a cap of liberty vert, and in an eagle displayed argent thereon holding in his dexter talon a sword, or having a wreath of laurel suspended to the point and to the sinister, the ensign of the United States proper. The supporters were listed as this. On Dexter's side, the genius of the American Confederated Republic, represented by a maiden with flowing auburn tresses, clad in a long, loose white garment bordered with green, having a sky blue scarf charged with stars as in the arms, reaching across her waist from right shoulder to her left side, and on her head a radiated crown of gold encircled with an azure fillet spangled with silver stars. Round her waist, a purple girdle embroidered with the word virtuous in silver, a dove proper, perched on her dexter hand. And on the sinister side, an American warrior clad in a uniform coat, of blue faced with bluff, and his hat cocked with a cockade of black and white ribbons. In his left hand, a baton azure, semi of stars, argent. So here we have another depiction. We have an allegory for the American virtues, and then we also have an allegory for American military might with a proto-marshal's baton, basically. You also see the inclusion of the eagle here, not on the shield itself, but in the crest. And this is an interesting thing because the eagle will make its way into these supporters. Moving on from here, we move on to the final design. As you can see with this design as well, you're picking up more and more of the elements that will become the later thing. And if you look at this, it's almost identical to what we finally picked for the final arms. So this one, which was proposed by Thompson, becoming this. On a field of chevron composed of 7 pieces on one side and 6 on the other, joined together at the top with such wise that each of the 6 bears against or is supported by and supports 2 of the opposite side. The pieces of the chevrons on each side alternate red and white. The shield borne on the breast of the American eagle, on the wing and rising proper. In the dexter talon of the eagle, an olive branch, and in the sinister, a bundle of arrows. Over the head of the eagle, a constellation of stars surrounded with bright rays and a little distance clouds. In the bill of this eagle, a scroll with the words E pluribus unum. So, the olive branch, the arrows, the eagle, the supporter, and even the crest are at this point organized. Now, in the final blazon, when we get to it, I'll explain the constellation of the stars. However, the shield here is just odd. And you can tell by the blazon as well, it definitely was not the best attempt at heraldry. And arguably this could break a rule of tincture, and it also couldn't, depending on what rules you want to go by, but it's different. However, the last design, this was the 5th proposed design, and it came out in 1782. So at this point, it has taken 10 years almost to get the design to fruition. And this is the design that we mainly recognize to this day. There were, of course, little tweaks here and there from then on, but let me read the blazon from here. And this was, of course, proposed by Barton, who I mentioned earlier. Arms, pale wise of 13 pieces, argent and gules, a chief azure. The escutcheon placed on the breast of an American eagle, displayed proper, holding in his beak a scroll, inscribed with this motto, E pluribus unum, and in his dexter talon a palm or an olive branch. In the other, a bundle of 13 arrows, all proper. For the crest, over the head of the eagle, which appears above the escutcheon, a glory or, breaking through the cloud proper, surrounding 13 stars, forming a constellation, argent on an azure field. In the exterior of the great seal, the date of July 4th, 1776, and in the margin of the same, sigil mag Republica Confederate America. Now, I'm going to read the description of this. Personally, I don't like heraldic symbolism half the time because I think it can cloud the overall meaning of the arms. However, in this case, it makes sense to read it. So this is the remarks that were submitted along with this proposal. The escutcheon is composed of the chief and pale, the two most honorable ordinaries. The later represent the several states, all joined in one solid, compact entire, supporting a chief, which unites the whole and represents Congress. The motto alludes to this union. The colors or tinctures of the pales are those used in the flag of the United States. White signifies purity and innocence, red, hardiness and valor. The chief denotes Congress. Blue is the ground of the American uniform, and this color signifies vigilance, perseverance, and justice. The meaning of the crest is obvious, as is likewise that of the olive branch and arrows. The escutcheon being placed on the breast of the eagle displayed is a very ancient mode of bearing and is truly imperial. The eagle displayed is a heraldic figure, and being born in the manner here described supplies the place of supporters and crest. The American states need no supporters but their own virtue, and the preservation of their union through a Congress. The pales and the arms are kept closely united by the chief, which last likewise depends on that union and the strength resulting from it with its own support. The inference of this plan. June 19th, 1782, the plan is proposed. Then on June 20th, it was fully ratified on Congress. It was passed through. And then later, the backside, the reverse, was shown as a pyramid unfinished. And they also, at the zenith, an eye in the triangle, surrounded with a glory proper. Over the eyes, these words, Annuit Copietus. Now that's the backside of the Great Seal. So the arms were used by themselves, and then they're also used in conjunction with the Great Seal. This being on one side, the pyramid on the other. And this became the new seal, and it was first used on an official act in September of 1782, which was given to General Washington as part of his formal pieces and exchanges going on with the British government to get American prisoners of war exchanged with the British ones. So this is where I leave you with the American arms. If you have any questions, feel free to comment. And as always, please like and subscribe if you'd like to see more videos. Thank you. Have a great day.